Five Towns has no shortage of students with musical talent. But what about the professors of FTC? I'm joined by Professor Chris Tibaldi here from the music department, who his own 80s tribute band, Lovesong. Chris, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks so much for having me today.
Of course. Now, who were the driving influences of Lovesong?
Well, going back to my childhood, I was a kid of the 80s when MTV was born. So one of the driving forces for me personally for the music that Lovesong would choose to perform was that era of 80s MTV style music, where I saw bands such as The Police, U2, Duran Duran. Now, there was so much more on the channel, and it was such an exciting time for music. But those were the ones that stood out as a band that I thought, as artists, that I thought we could play in Lovesong and really market and have an audience for. So it was really that 80s new wave genre that I saw all over MTV when I was a kid that stuck out as something we might want to do.
Well, that's awesome. Now, why do you think people should see more local acts?
Listen, to me, there's nothing, as a musician, there's nothing like seeing live musicians perform. And we all know the cost of living, the cost of ticket prices to see national acts and the original artists is very expensive these days. And I just think, seeing local musicians at local venues is a lot more cost effective. You could do it as many times as you want for the fraction of the price of buying a concert ticket. And you're supporting local musicians and local venues and restaurants at the same time. To me, it's a win-win for everybody.
Now, one last question. What is your all-time favorite concert experience?
Well, that's a good one. I have a great one. When I was very young, a younger version of me went to go see my very first concert, which was not new wave based like what Lovesong plays, but was from the band Kiss. I went to go see Kiss with my best friend when I was 13 or 14 years old at the Nassau Coliseum. And I loved the show, and it was fantastic, but this was, again, way before cell phones and the internet. So my dad dropped the two of us off at Nassau Coliseum. This is the days when parents would do stuff like this with 13-year-old kids. And we were to meet him at the Marriott across the parking lot, the Marriott Hotel from Nassau Coliseum. So after the show, my friend and I walked over to the Marriott. We were pumped. The show was great. We're standing in front of the Marriott waiting for my dad to pick us up, and a limousine pulls up right in front of us. And there's no one around. There's the two of us and the guy at the front desk. And out from the limousine comes Gene Simmons of Kiss, who's one of the most famous musicians ever. And he had these big platform heels on, so he was standing like about 8 foot tall. And he comes walking out and just walks right by us. And we were speechless. There was no one else around. We thought we were on, some candid camera show, like it was a joke. And finally, we got the courage to run over to him and get our tour book signed and our T-shirts and everything we bought at the concert. He couldn't have been nicer. He signed everything. He thanked us for coming to the show. And off he went up to his room, and we were just speechless. My dad pulls up, picks us up. Needless to say, we were heroes in school the next day when we wore our concert T-shirts and told everyone we met Gene Simmons at the show. They didn't believe us at first until they saw his signature, and it was awesome. So that was in 1983 or 84, and it was one of my fondest childhood memories.
It must have been a phenomenal experience.
It was great. It was great.
Well, that's all we have time for. I'd like to thank my guest, Professor Chris Tibaldi, for joining me.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.